Hey Reddit, guess what? I proposed to my girlfriend today. I was really nervous because we haven't been dating for that long, but true love just can't wait, you know? It was such a crazy day, and I want you to hear all about it. I was so nervous this morning, but I knew it had to be today. Today just felt right. I'd made up my mind almost a week ago to do it, and I'd finally worked up the nerve. I hadn't told anyone, not even my mom or Dr. Jefferson. I knew they'd think I was crazy for falling for a girl so quickly, but they didn't understand what Abby and I had. No one did. I knew we were the perfect couple, so why wait? Anyway, back to this morning. Things didn't start out as I had expected. You know what they say about the best laid plans. Abby and I share a summer class at our university. There were only about 15 other people in the lecture hall, so I could easily tell that she wasn't there when class started. I had tried paying attention to the professor to distract myself from my nerves, but quickly had taken to doodling and playing on my phone, unable to keep from worrying about her. She was never late to class. What if something happened to Abby? I was slumped in my seat, debating whether to head to her dorm when I heard the door open. I glanced up quickly and let out an audible sigh of relief. Abby was here, and just as beautiful as the day I laid eyes on her. Her hair, half drawn into a bun, was golden brown like waves of melting chocolate falling down and piling onto her shoulders. She wore a light yellow sundress, embroidered with small blue flowers. A freshly sharpened pencil was tucked behind her ear. She was visibly distressed over being late to class. Abby is such a teacher's pet. She was in too much of a hurry to see the open seat I had saved for her and instead rushed down into the front row. Who could blame her? Abby clearly had a lot on her mind this morning. Besides, I was too distracted by how good she looked today. Her long, tanned legs were crossed, and one perfectly manicured hand rested on top. The other waved in front of her as she spoke, gracefully emphasizing whatever point she was trying to make to the professor, probably some explanation for her tardiness. Her voice was music, a bluebird's song on a spring morning. She was perfect, and she was mine. I was reminded then, for the 100th time, that I was in love. I'd never been much of a ladies' man, and the couple of girlfriends I had previously hadn't stuck around long, but they were nothing compared to Abby. Less than nothing. What I felt for Abby was something so much deeper, more intense. I spent the rest of that class gazing at my Abby, wishing this class would last longer and I could just watch her forever and ever. It was as if she was a secret, beautiful portrait I owned that I could look at whenever I wanted, and no one could stop me. It was so romantic. I knew today had to be the day. Our special day. I shook my head to clear my thoughts. Everyone around me was shoveling their books into bags or backpacks. Class was over. I peered through the crowd of migrating students to find my Abby. She was chatting with the professor, laughing at something he had said. Like I said, always the teacher's pet, but somehow that just made her all the more endearing to me. I messed around at my seat, waiting for Abby to leave. I dug the engagement ring out from under some textbooks, empty pill bottles, and crumpled papers in my backpack. I was going to propose in the class where we had met for the first time. My Abby would have loved it. I knew she would. Another musical peal of laughter rang out from the front of the auditorium. Why didn't the professor just shut the hell up and let her go? Pretentious bastard. Had some stupid-ass degree in a subject that nobody gives two flying shits about. Now he thought he could take the girl of my dreams away from me? Honestly, I should have beat his fucking ass right there. But Abby was finally leaving. I snapped back into focus. This was it. She was coming up the aisle, fiddling with something in her bag. I began to move toward her from my seat, swinging my backpack on and smiling, slipping the ring out from my pocket and into my hand. But she just kept walking, didn't even glance in my direction. I literally froze in shock and confusion. What was going on? Why was she ignoring me like this? This wasn't like her at all. Abby kept walking up the aisle towards the door, now intently focused on her phone. The shock passed, and I realized she just hadn't noticed me. She must have still been stressed about whatever had made her late this morning. She had probably figured that I'd gone ahead outside and was expecting me there. I grinned to myself. I would sneak up behind her as she left the room and surprise her. We would have a good laugh about the whole thing, and I could find out what was distracting her so much. I increased my pace, trying to close the distance between her and I. I couldn't wait to see the look on her face when I swept her off her feet and made her mine forever. But then it was all ruined. Some girl had come into the classroom and yelled at Abby to hurry up so they could get to the next class. Abby laughed and the two disappeared out the door, not even thinking to look behind her. It swung shut behind them. I know what you're thinking. I was thinking it too. What the fuck? That fucking bitch. How could she ruin a special moment for Abby and I like that? Some dumb whore was just gonna try and take my girlfriend away from me like that? Didn't she understand that Abby didn't want to be bothered by her? Abby only wanted me. Abby only needed me. I wish I could have just wrapped my hands around that bitch friend's throat and choked some sense into her. But it was fine. It was fine. I wasn't going to let Abby and I's special day be ruined by a small setback like this. I had some errands I needed to run before my next class, but my car had broken down last week, and I just hadn't gotten around to getting it fixed. I was going to take an Uber to the pharmacy, but decided to go hang outside Abby's classroom and wait for her there. It was only a 2-hour class, and I was anxious to see her. Who cared about picking up some dumb prescription or going to a useless college class? The only thing that mattered was making Abby my wife. However, when the class ended, there was no sign of her. I anxiously scanned the faces of everyone leaving the classroom, but she simply wasn't there. I even saw her dumbass friend from before, with her nose glued to her phone, probably sledding around on Tinder. Not that any guy with functional eyes would be interested. But Abby wasn't with her. What was going on? I peeked into the classroom to see if Abby was talking to some prick professor again, but nothing. Where the hell was she? I was getting worried. What if something had happened to her? She could be hurt, trapped somewhere, crying out for me. She needed me. I went over to the girls' bathroom and shoved it open. Abby's bitch friend was leaning over the sink, smearing makeup on herself. I demanded her tell me where my girlfriend was. I didn't have time to mess around, you know? The girl didn't answer me immediately. Who knows what the hell her problem was. I didn't have time to deal with that brain-dead whore. I shook her a bit, trying to get some sense into her. Finally, she managed to say something about Abby skipping class to meet someone at her dorm room. Fucking about time. The chick was spraying mucus and snot out of her nose. She was blubbering so hard. Just looking at her was grossing me out. Some girls are just crazy, am I right? Thankfully, I didn't have time to stick around anyway. I had to get to Abby's dorm. I cut across campus quickly. I was getting nervous again. This was it. Man, who knew being in love could be this stressful? Abby must have skipped to meet me at her room so that we could finally have some alone time together. I had no idea she could be this rebellious. That's my Abby, always surprising me. I took the stairs to her floor 2 at a time, as fast as I could. I was heading down the hallway toward her room, nervously fiddling with the ring in my hand when I saw her. My Abby. Just thinking about that special moment makes me smile, even now. Somehow she had gotten more beautiful in that time since I'd seen her in class. But she was with someone. A guy who was giving her a hug, laying his filthy fucking hands on my love. I couldn't hear what they were saying from where I was, but she was obviously being bothered by some random creep harassing her. My Abby was too polite to tell this douche to screw off. Such an angel she was. The hug ended. Abby waved daintily at the guy with one perfectly manicured hand, heading back inside her room and shutting the door, clearly too polite to show her disgust with the subhuman freak who had just bothered her. The creep walked down the hallway, still smiling to himself as he checked his phone. He glanced at me as he passed, and then back to his phone. I followed him into the stairwell. He never felt my fist hit the back of his head. Like I was just gonna let this guy harass the love of my life? When I was done, I wiped my hands on my jeans. I walked back into the hallway and down to Abby's room. The ring had a little blood on it, but it really didn't look too bad still. Abby would understand, like she always did. I knocked gently on the door, hiding the ring behind my back. After a brief delay, it swung wide open. She stood there, just as beautiful as the first day I saw her. "Yes?" she said. I'll never forget how lovely her voice sounded. Our eyes met, and I was helplessly entranced. Her eyes were lush, shining emeralds, gazing deep into mine. Her face was perfectly symmetrical, a flawless complexion, a light tan the same shade as her legs. She was a goddess. I stepped into her room, leaning in for a kiss. She playfully slopped me away, backing away coyly into the room. For such a petite thing, she could give quite the smack. I loved when she played hard to get with me. I laughed, shutting the door behind me and following her. Slowly walking toward her, I showered her with compliments on how amazing she looked and how much she meant to me, revealing the ring from behind my back. She stumbled backwards into the corner of the room, so overcome that she could only scream with joy. I dropped to one knee and asked the woman of my dreams if she could make me the happiest man in the world. Just as I had hoped, my Abby was too overcome to speak, tears streaming down her cheeks. She fell back against the wall, staring at me with her mouth closing and opening silently in pure joy. She was going to be my wife. I was happy, so happy. I jumped up, wrapping her in my arms, and hugged her with all my might. It was so magical, feeling her soft, warm body tremble with happiness against mine. Abby was so thrilled. She struck me again and again with her hands in uncontrollable passion. I wanted that hug to last forever. Slowly, her movements ceased, and her cries of excitement quieted as she was overcome with love for me. I squeezed her even harder. "I'll never let you go," I remember whispering. "I'll be with you forever." When we finally separated, I had to catch her before she fell. She had fainted. The passion of our moment together had been too much. My beautiful, sweet Abby, so adorable. I scooped her up in my arms and laid her on her bed, gently shutting her eyes with my fingers and placing a soft pillow beneath her head. After I finish this post, I'll get her to the car. Her keys are on her desk, so I'll just pull it around the back of the building and carry her gently to it. We'll run away together from all of this. I'll take her someplace where it can just be the two of us. We'll be so, so happy. Just me and my Abby. Forever.